Hey YouTube, it's me, BrandonColonel again. As you can see, you don't see my face. A couple of people have been asking me to get a top-down review setup going, so that way, I don't know, people just like it better for whatever reason. Personally, I prefer to show my face, but you guys have asked for it, so I'm going to try it. Dropped about 20 bucks today to get a tabletop setup, so we'll see how this works. If you guys remember from a couple of weeks ago, I did say that I wanted to get into a sharpening series. Just to either explaining or maybe demonstrating how to use various types of sharpeners, and just so on and so forth. Well, today I'm just going to be doing a little overview of what I plan to do with that series, and maybe giving a little explanation on things as I go. So, without further ado, let's get into it. This right here is the Smith's double-sided sharpener, diamond specifically. This is pretty much all that you actually need. And I say that with air quotes because there are definitely better things to get. There are definitely other things that you could very easily buy in addition to this. So this isn't the only thing that you have. But in general, this is truly the only thing that you actually need. Anything more than this, well, I can't say that it's overkill. I will say is just getting an already very sharp knife even sharper. So, this you can usually find between $12 and $20 depending on where you go, depending on the sales that you have, and depending on who's buying it, or depending on who's selling it. But in general, this is a very, very good stone. It works incredibly well. And this will literally sharpen anything, including recurves. I've actually sharpened this exact knife on this exact sharpener. Basically, I actually use this for a, just like in quote-unquote in-the-field sharpener. And I kept it in the glove box of my car just in case I needed a quick and dirty touch-up. And lo and behold, there was one day that came up that that I needed to sharpen my knife while I was at work because, well, this very knife got dull because I used it as a steak knife on a ceramic plate and pretty much sawed directly into the plate, dulling my knife quite quickly. This thing touched it up back to hair shaving sharp incredibly fast, and then just the moment that I got back to my house, well, guess what? Put a great edge back on it. This thing does its job very easily. On a very cheap end, you have something like this. This is another Smith's sharpener. It's just like a retractable baton type thing. You can actually flip it over, and now you've got a serrated file. You've got a flat top, curvature for recurves, and a little groove for hooks. You got a little bit of everything in here. And this does tighten so that way it doesn't move. But anyways, I do say that you would need more than this, because this ain't all that great. And like I said, I do want to do individual usage videos for all these, which is why I'm not going too in-depth, but yeah. This I would definitely say that you would need a little bit more. Now let's get into the Fury Stone. This is soft Arkansas, which means that it's basically the most aggressive Arkansas stone that you'll find in most places. And you can actually finish these in various ways, just based on using a little bit of sandpaper to either roughen up or smoothen the surface. So I've actually got this as a little bit grittier on the top and a little bit smoother on the bottom. That actually allows me to have two separate grits, so to speak, a little bit more aggressive and a little less aggressive, but it doesn't truly change all that much. Basically, it just gives you that kind of stepping stone in order to make things easier instead of just, say, going straight from a 500 grit stone all the way to a 3000, so to speak. Maybe you can go from a 500 grit to a 1500, and that's the kind of thing that this would be doing. It gives you that little bit of a stair step, so that way you're not just jumping immediately into something higher than you want. But these are actually pretty good. The only downside is you can't use these on high-end steels. Really, really high-end steels, it just doesn't work. Reason being is that high-end steels have a vanadium carbide content that is just too hard for these rocks. Give me 1 second, I actually need to plug in my camera real quick. Okay, there we go. Got my phone plugged in. But as I was saying, steels like this use vanadium carbide inside of their steels. S35VN uses the V inside of that is vanadium carbide. That's basically what that is. So vanadium carbide is incredibly tough. Much tougher and harder than this could ever hope to be, which means this can't sharpen this. And that really sucks, because this actually has a very, very good feedback to it. It's a stone that I like to use because it's a nice, quick, and dirty stone. If you're really not looking to put a mirror polished finish, but you do want a little bit of a reflectivity to it, you want a nice and sharply done knife, this is a great finishing stone. However, almost every single steel, if not every single steel that I possess, is one of these. It's either S30V, S35VN, I've got a D2 here and there, but the majority of my knives are S30V and S35VN, and I do have a CPM 154. I don't believe that's a vanadium carbide steel, but I've also got a few LMAXs. And again, I don't know if LMAX is vanadium carbide or not, but I think that it might be in there somewhere. I'll have to do a little bit more research for that. However, and I'll put that in the review, or not review, but video on how to use one of these. But anyways, like I said, it's a crying shame because now I can't use this as often as I want. Because I actually really would like to use this stone a little bit more. Because it's, like I said, it's a really nice feel to it, has a really nice feedback. So really the only chance that I get to use this is when I'm sharpening other people's knives. Because generally they don't want some really high-end, ultra-glossy finish that's been mirror polished, because they don't like to use a mirror polished edge. I actually sharpened a knife for the father of a friend of mine, and because I mirror polished it, then he didn't want to use it. And honestly, if you're going to a person who borderline professionally sharpens, that's almost an insult. Saying that the edge is too pretty to use, we sharpen it to be used. We sharpen it for you to use it. Go ahead and use it. So this actually allows us to have a nicely polished edge that does all that we want it to do without being too reflective in the sense that nobody wants to use it. A lot of people don't like going to a mirror polish finish for that exact reason. They don't want to screw up their edge. I don't care. My edges are designed to be used. I can easily put it back to a mirror polish. It just takes a little bit of time. So I'm not worried about that. But this allows a person to have a nicely polished finish that's not mirror polished, but it actually gets it fine enough to the point where I don't feel like I'm underdoing the knife. And I don't feel like it's going to underperform when it really needs to perform properly. Moving on. Let's go on to these. As many of you probably know, This is the Lansky Pro Sharpening Set. A lot of these stones are ceramic. They're actually really good, really high-end stones. They really don't dish all that often. Comes with basically everything that you need, minus this. So I'll get that out of the way because it doesn't actually come with it. But this is a really, really nice set. As you can see, I'm missing a little clamp right here. It's because I don't use it. That thing can screw off. I don't want it. Because these are excellent handheld stones. You can easily sharpen a knife on this just like that. So it really doesn't need anything else. These are actually what I truly learned to freehand on. And guess what? I have achieved terrific mirror polished edges using nothing but these stones. Well, I can't say nothing. I actually did combine this with it as well. But literally adding just one more stone, and these actually do so well to the point where if I didn't buy these, I wouldn't need them. I use these now because these allow me a little bit better control than these do. But in general, these really don't have all that much better of a finish or an edge. These are every bit as good of an edge as the Shapton glass stones. It's just these don't allow as good of precision. So in practice, the edges are a little bit better on this, but it's only because of the control. Basically speaking, holding a sharpening stone in the air and then using one hand to go across the stone is a lot more difficult than putting a stone flat on the ground and using both hands to maintain a proper angle. It's just how it works. So, these are terrific stones. The system, yeah, that's debatable. You can get very sharp hair-popping edges using the system. I just don't like to. So, these work just fine. Let's get these out of the way. And let's go to Shapton glass stones for a second. This specifically is the 3000 grit. Comes in actually a fairly nice packaging. As you can see from how cloudy this thing is, it has been heavily used. It has sat inside of a water container for a little bit, which is why this is so cloudy. It's actually steel shavings. But the reason why they're called glass stones is because, well, that's glass. The reason for the glass is because over time this will eventually wear down. And if they put it onto a glass backing that's about as hard as the ceramic itself, well, you're going to have a much longer life out of your stone than if you didn't have it. Because the bottom line is, if you've got it attached to something, then you can continue to flatten it all the way down to the base before it starts to crack. Going on to a different stone. This is the Naniwa Superstone 8000 grit. This thing is about as thick, maybe just a little bit thicker, but it doesn't actually have a base, which means I'm probably going to get to about right there before this thing starts cracking the moment that I pick it up. So that means that this is going to have a significantly less lifetime to it, and that's even if it was made out of the same material. Now, seeing as it's not made out of the same material, even if it did have a backing, it'd still have a significantly shorter lifespan, because this is just a much softer material. I actually forget exactly what it's made out of, but while these have terrific polishing capabilities, they just don't have that great of a lifespan. So, I'm talking about this in specific. There's something about these in particular that do polish better than these, even in the same grits. an 8000 grit of the, I want to say this is some kind of silicone base, but I don't remember at all. I just don't. But whatever it's made out of, these do just simply polish better. And if I'm not mistaken, the reasoning is actually due in part to the shape of how it cuts. The shape of the abrasives, if I'm not mistaken, are more rounded off, so to speak, which doesn't leave as many jagged lines as something that ceramic does. This actually does have a little bit more jagged lines to it, leaving it a lot more cloudy of a surface, even in very similar grit ranges, if not identical. Which actually brings us to one other thing. And let me get these off screen. Let's go for a minute to strops. So this is a microfine compound and a strop that it's actually loaded on. So, Formax microfine honing compound. Just got like a standard leather belt that I've cut up, put on a block for grip, and it rubbed some of this green compound on it. This thing here, the particle size is actually oblong. That's just the particle shape, I should say. It's actually oblong. So, even in what's supposed to be similar polishing, I can't exactly say grits, because nobody truly establishes what their grit is when it comes to the world of polishing. They just really don't. So, when you get into stuff like the DMT lapping paste, or the polishing paste, so whatever you want to go for, they really do have a difference depending on which one you go to. This particular one here, sharpeningsupplies.com, while they don't advertise it, if you talk specifically to them, they do say that they rate it particularly somewhere around a 0.5 micron. Now, does this hold up to a 0.5 micron? Well, let me actually get out my 0.5 micron emulsion fluid, because I've got that somewhere. Actually, it's somewhere on this table. Here we go. I've got my 0.5 micron emulsion fluid in a kangaroo strop that it's actually applied to. This is only barely underneath this. So yes, I would say that it's approximately a 0.5 micron. Maybe just a little bit lower, but yeah, we're really picking hairs here, and it doesn't matter to get down that fine. But anyways, a lot of people usually go for DMT because it's truly ranged. They actually give you a specific grit range and say if you use this paste or you use this fluid, whatever they're selling you at the time, it will be exactly rated to this specific level. These bars usually don't. They are literally a wax bar that you just simply rub onto your base, and it works. That's about all they really tell you about it. However, DMT, and I actually have one here, uses diamond. Diamond is crystalline in shape, so that means that it's going to leave jagged tears and cuts inside of your steel. No matter how fine you get, it will always be cloudier than something like this that's more an oblong shape in the particle size, so that way it doesn't leave those big nasty scratches in your knife. So if you're going for true mirror polished, don't go for DMT. These KMEs, I don't believe that it actually has diamond inside of it. So this actually does pretty good. I don't know exactly what this is made out of, but I do know that this actually does get it just a little bit finer than this. However, this will always, by itself at least, be better than a diamond of the same level. So 0.5 micron diamond paste is never going to be as good as this, just due to the simple fact of it's not as harsh on your knife. So in general, there's just a lot of different types of sharpening materials, and when it really truly comes down to it, you really don't need all that much. There are so few things that you truly need, and it really just boils down to that. Do you have this stone right here, or some equivalent to it? If so, you've got a nice sharp knife, granted that you know how to put an edge with it. If you want to continue past this, well, take your pick. I'll see you guys next time. As always, YouTube, stay safe. By the way, I actually almost forgot that I wanted to say this at the end of the video. I've actually gotten this set up because there's a couple of reviews that I want to actually do here in the near future that Lord knows you guys will want to see top down. Now, obviously, this has been a review. This has been reviewed heavily on YouTube, but specifically, I've already done it. However, this actually does have something in common. As well as, at least as far as I think, so does this. These two knives actually have a fair bit in common with the knife that I'm about to get. I ended up just recently trading a knife literally yesterday morning. I ended up trading a knife to get something that, quite frankly, I've wanted for a while, but I never pulled the trigger on it because I never wanted to spend money on it. However, I was already looking to trade the knife that I traded, and that meant that I didn't have to spend money in order to buy what I got. So, got a new knife coming in, and it's a chance to get into a company that I've never had before, as well as a knife that I just really want. Now, I also have a review coming on these two pry bars. Pry bar multi-tool kind of thing. So, we have here, I forget exactly what it was called, but the Night Eyes Key something. I forget exactly what it was called. In fact, I actually threw away the package. I'll have to go look at my unboxing in order to see what it was called again. Or doohickey, that's what it was called. And then I've also got the Gerber Shard. I finally started getting a bit of testing on these, so I should be just about done here in a little bit. I actually do want to still get just a bit more testing out, but I'm just about done. And so far I think they're working out pretty well for the both of them. But like I said, I want just a little bit more. And so, probably the knife that I'm getting that's fairly similar to both of these. Well, I guess I can't say similar, but has something in common with both of these. I'll probably get that done before I get to these two multi-tools. So, now I will officially say, as always, stay safe.